Welcome back to Real Crime Stories, the podcast where we bring you crime stories from around the world. Just after 5 p.m. on a quiet Monday evening in Sydney, Teresa Marsden's phone buzzed with a text from her daughter, Renee. "I love you. I'm sorry. I'm not happy." After that, Renee went silent. Teresa's calls went unanswered. Panic set in as daylight faded and a desperate search began. By nightfall, police discovered Renee's car parked near the edge of a notorious cliff. What happened in the hours leading up to that moment remained unclear. What was certain was that the truth behind Renee's final message was far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Renee Marsden was born on October 15, 1992, in Sydney, New South Wales, to Teresa and Jamie. When Renee was just 2 years old, her parents separated. Years later, Teresa met Mark Marsden, and by the time Renee was 6, the three were living together. Teresa and Mark married in 2000, creating a blended family that would soon grow to include 3 more children, Luke, Jake, and Monique. The household was described as loving and close, and Renee shared a particularly strong bond with her mother. At 18, Renee chose to legally take the surname Marsden, honoring the man who had raised her. She was known as a bright, outgoing young woman with a warm personality and an infectious smile. Friends and family described her as kind, sociable, and someone who left a positive impression wherever she went. One of Renee's longest friendships was with Camilla Sidan, a girl she had known since childhood. As they grew older, however, their relationship became increasingly volatile. There were arguments, jealousy, and even physical altercations. Renee once confided in her mother that Camilla had pulled her hair and struck her, leaving her frightened. Despite the tension, their connection never fully disappeared. Camilla was known to be possessive of Renee, and rumors circulated about a brief romantic involvement between the two, though nothing was ever confirmed. Over time, they drifted apart, only to reconnect years later and grow close once again. As Renee entered adulthood, she trained as a receptionist and later as a hairdresser, ultimately focusing on the latter. She was hard-working, optimistic, and excited about her future, even making plans to move out and live with a cousin. To those around her, her life appeared to be on a positive path. In 2008, while working at a beauty salon, Renee met Angus Jong. Initially drawn in by the salon, Angus soon became interested in Renee herself. His visits became more frequent, and the two eventually began dating. Their relationship progressed quickly and intensely. They even drafted a written plan for their future together. They planned to have 4 children and a Labrador. Angus later described that time as the happiest period of his life. But in April 2010, the relationship abruptly unraveled. Renee discovered text messages that suggested Angus might have been unfaithful. Although he denied it, Renee was devastated and chose to end the relationship. The breakup left her emotionally broken, and weeks later she was still struggling. That was when Camilla stepped in. Seeing Renee's pain, she suggested introducing her to a man named Brayden, a 24-year-old she claimed to have dated in the past. Camilla assured Renee they were now just friends. She showed Renee a photo of herself with Brayden and later provided his phone number and social media details. Renee didn't question it. What followed was a relationship built entirely online. Renee and Brayden never met in person, but their connection deepened rapidly through constant messaging. Then, Brayden shared devastating news. He claimed he had been involved in a motorcycle accident that killed his best friend, and that he had been sentenced to 2 years in prison as a result. Brayden told Renee that his wealthy family had managed to smuggle a phone into the prison so they could continue texting. He explained that phone calls and visits weren't possible because he had voluntarily given up visitation rights to reduce his sentence. Though the story raised questions, Renee accepted it. Love, after all, has a way of quieting doubt. Despite never hearing his voice or seeing him face to face, Renee leaned on the relationship for comfort after her heartbreak. In 2011, she finally told her mother about Brayden. Teresa was uneasy about her daughter dating someone who claimed to be incarcerated, but her concerns softened when she saw how happy Renee seemed. Seeing how her daughter lit up whenever she spoke about Brayden gave Teresa reason to support the relationship, even though her instincts told her something wasn't right. That support, however, was soon tested. One day, Teresa messaged Renee on social media, only to receive a reply from Brayden instead. The intrusion unsettled her. Teresa responded firmly, telling him she wanted to speak with her daughter, not him. It was then she realized Renee had given Brayden full access to her personal account, a revelation that immediately raised red flags. Tensions escalated further when Teresa liked a photo of Angus, Renee's former boyfriend. Brayden reacted almost instantly, sending accusatory messages and questioning Teresa's loyalty. He even suggested she was a bad mother for maintaining any form of contact with Angus. Despite the warning signs, Renee's relationship with Brayden continued for nearly 18 months, growing increasingly intense. They spoke of marriage and made life plans together once he was released from prison. At just 20 years old, Renee spoke openly about her wedding day and told friends and family that Brayden was her soulmate. In January 2012, convinced of their future, Renee went to a tattoo parlor with Camilla and had Brayden's name tattooed across her chest. Soon after, however, the relationship began to unravel. Brayden grew jealous and controlling, and Renee, once vibrant and carefree, became withdrawn and uneasy. When Brayden claimed he would be released in August, Renee's hope was briefly restored. But when the date passed and he remained incarcerated, she was devastated. According to those close to her, the emotional strain became so overwhelming that she reportedly attempted to take her own life by overdosing on pills, a terrifying moment for her family. Seeing how fragile she had become, Teresa and Mark urged Renee to end the relationship. Eventually, she agreed, determined to move forward. Not long after, she began dating a coworker named Ian, a man 12 years older than her. The relationship showed promise until Brayden reappeared, sending Ian threatening messages. Ian warned Renee that she needed to sever all contact with her ex, but she couldn't bring herself to let go. Believing Brayden was still the love of her life, she ended her relationship with Ian and resumed contact with Brayden. On the morning of Monday, August 5, 2013, everything appeared normal. Renee followed her usual routine, went to work, and returned home early that afternoon. But Teresa sensed something was wrong. Renee seemed distant, irritable, and emotionally withdrawn. When asked if she was okay, she said yes and went to her bedroom. Later, shortly after, Teresa received a disturbing message from Brayden, warning her to watch over her daughter and claiming Renee had threatened to harm herself. Alarmed, Teresa rushed to Renee's room. Renee acknowledged the message, but told her mother not to worry, insisting that things with Brayden were over. Later that evening, Teresa checked on her again and found Renee doing her makeup. Renee said she was going out to dinner with coworkers to distract herself and clear her head. Though uneasy, Teresa accepted the explanation. Around 5 p.m., she received a text from her daughter, one no parent ever expects to receive. She said she loved her, apologized, and admitted she wasn't happy. Panic set in immediately. Teresa called repeatedly, but Renee never answered. Desperate, Teresa went to the home of one of Renee's close friends and showed her the message. Her friend urged her to contact the police right away. Teresa didn't hesitate. Authorities began tracking Renee's phone, but as night fell, no updates came. The silence was agonizing. Searching for answers, Teresa called Camilla, who admitted she had also received a strange message from Renee, saying she loved her and was sorry. When Teresa explained that Renee was missing, Camilla said she would help look for her.
Along with her mother, she picked Teresa up, and together they searched familiar places, but found nothing. Later that evening, around 9 p.m., police called with an update. Renee's car had been located, parked near a cliffside area in Sydney. Teresa and Mark rushed to the scene.
Upon arriving at the cliffside, Teresa and Mark began calling out Renee's name into the darkness, clinging to the hope that she might still answer. For nearly 2 hours they searched the surrounding area, scanning the ground and listening for any sign of her. When there was still no trace of Renee, they were forced to return home, though sleep never came. At first light on August 6th, they returned to the cliff, determined to keep looking. That was when Teresa noticed something that stopped her cold: a pair of shoes resting near the edge. She knew immediately they belonged to her daughter. Overcome with emotion, she bent down to pick them up, but before she could fully process what she was holding, a nearby police officer gently took the shoes from her hands, placed them back where they had been found, and asked her to step away. By then, investigators believed they understood what had happened. They suspected Renee had taken her own life at the cliff, a location already known for similar tragedies. Officers carefully explained their conclusion and encouraged the Marsdens to go home, telling them they believed Renee had made a permanent decision. No body was ever recovered. But surveillance footage from a nearby camera appeared to support the police theory. The video showed Renee approaching the fence at the cliff's edge. She climbed over it, walked toward the precipice, then stepped back. She appeared to send several messages from her phone, threw the device out of frame, and then walked once more toward the edge, disappearing from view. For her family, the footage was devastating, too painful to fully accept. The idea that Renee had been so overwhelmed that she believed there was no other way out was impossible for Teresa and Mark to comprehend. In their grief, they focused their anger on one person, Brayden. They sent him a message, holding him responsible for the emotional torment they believed had consumed their daughter. He never replied. With nowhere else to turn, they reached out to the only person who had supposedly known Brayden in real life, Camilla Sedan. Her response was unsettling. Camilla claimed that Brayden was suffering too. Teresa was confused. How could Camilla know that? Camilla said Brayden had called her, but when Teresa asked her to provide the phone number to the police, Camilla's behavior shifted. She became agitated and began making strange, inconsistent statements. Then came a shocking accusation. Camilla claimed that Renee had been manipulative and violent, insisting that she herself had been the victim and that Renee needed psychological help. The sudden reversal left Teresa stunned. Meanwhile, investigators continued their work. Renee's phone was gone. She had thrown it into the ocean. But inside her parked car, police found something else. Alongside a collage of photos of Brayden, they discovered Renee's old cell phone, the one she had replaced just months earlier. It was returned to her parents with her other belongings, unnoticed for what it truly was. That phone would soon change everything. Renee's younger brother, Luke, just 13 years old, had a friend with technical knowledge. Together, they managed to access the device using a software tool. What they uncovered was staggering. More than 11,000 text messages exchanged over 3 months from March to June of 2013. The messages included conversations between Renee and Brayden and between Renee and Camilla. Mark began meticulously reviewing the data. He created a spreadsheet and started cross-referencing dates and timestamps. That's when a disturbing pattern emerged. Messages from Brayden and messages from Camilla never overlapped. They appeared one after the other, never at the same time. The implication was horrifying. Mark brought his findings to the police.
Investigators confirmed what he suspected. Although the messages had been sent from two different phones, they originated from the same building, the same address. Brayden, however, was supposedly incarcerated 2 hours away. The truth was undeniable. Brayden never existed. He was a fictional persona created and maintained entirely by Camilla. For 18 months, she had manipulated Renee using 2 separate phones to sustain the illusion. Friends and family began to recall Camilla's obsessive behavior, how she would call Renee repeatedly, sometimes dozens of times within an hour. In the months before her death, Renee had confided in Teresa that she felt emotionally controlled and exhausted. She told her mother she intended to end the friendship for good. Investigators believe Camilla's final act may have been retaliation. On August 5, 2013, the day Renee disappeared, Camilla sent one final message while pretending to be Brayden. The message ended the relationship. That single moment triggered a chain of 91 messages exchanged that day. Police later confirmed their existence, but the contents remain unknown. What is known is that Renee, confused and desperate, called the prison where she believed Brayden was being held. There was no inmate by that name. He had never existed. As police closed in, Camilla denied involvement, but the digital evidence, phone records, message logs, and surveillance footage told a different story. Even so, Camilla had destroyed the phone and SIM card used to impersonate Brayden, eliminating critical evidence. Ultimately, investigators concluded that Renee had been subjected to prolonged psychological manipulation, a practice now known as catfishing. But at the time, Australian law did not recognize or criminalize this form of deception. Because Camilla had not financially benefited from the scheme, prosecutors could not charge her with a crime. For the Marsden family, the outcome was devastating. They refused to let Renee's story end there. After 7 years of relentless advocacy, a forensic inquest was finally held in 2020. Camilla was granted immunity in exchange for her testimony. She admitted to creating Brayden, but claimed the persona had been invented jointly with Renee, an assertion investigators rejected. Experts testified that the breakup message sent on August 5, 2013, was likely the final emotional blow. A chilling school-era email was also presented, revealing Camilla's obsessive attachment to Renee long before the catfishing began. Despite acknowledging the immense harm caused, the court ruled that Camilla could not be criminally charged under the laws in place at the time. Public outrage followed. Camilla had moved on, married, had children, altered her appearance, sometimes crossing paths with Renee's parents in everyday places as if nothing had happened. Still, the Marsdens pressed forward, turning their grief into advocacy for legal reform. Later, the photographs used to portray Brayden were traced to an unsuspecting man named Cameron Lang, who had no connection to Camilla. After the story became public, he recognized his image on the news and spoke out. He didn't know Camilla at all. He believed the photo had been taken years earlier, maybe during a night out at a bar or a club. Somehow, she had taken that fleeting moment and turned it into a persona used to deceive and control her best friend. Renee Marsden's story isn't just a case of deception. It's a chilling reminder of how trust can be twisted and how digital manipulation can become emotional abuse. A single image, taken years earlier, had been transformed into a weapon of control. Renee Marsden's story is a stark reminder of how emotional manipulation can thrive behind a screen and how devastating its consequences can be. Her death continues to fuel conversations about coercive control, psychological abuse, and the urgent need for laws that protect victims in the digital age. In a world where online relationships are increasingly common, her death stands as a painful wake-up call. Behind every message, every profile,
every smiling photo, there might be a lie. And when the lie becomes a weapon, the consequences can be irreversible. Renee is gone, but her name echoes through the halls of reform. Her story continues to ignite conversations around emotional coercion, psychological control, and the urgent need for legislation to keep pace with modern abuse. Because no one should suffer in silence, and no one should be destroyed by a friend hiding behind a screen. Thank you for watching Real Crime Stories. Share your thoughts on the story, like and subscribe to the channel. Until the next episode, stay safe.